Hey, what's happening, folks? Welcome to the Saturday night, November 28th live stream for Student Loan Justice. My name is Alan Collins. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hopefully, you had a great vacation, or should I say holiday, Thanksgiving. Um, if you're new to the group, welcome. We're glad that you found us. We are the oldest and largest true grassroots organization fighting for student loan justice. For the first 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. But now I am here to tell you that this is a catastrophically failed lending system. We fought very moderately for 15 years, and Congress refused to act. It is now, by all reasonable metrics and measures, a catastrophically failed lending system. It's toast. It's done. Even before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were going to default on their loans. They were either unable to pay or they were paying, but their balance was going up. All of the forgiveness programs, quote unquote, are failing miserably. 99% of the people in public service loan forgiveness are getting disqualified out of the program. It is being run in bad faith by a Department of Education which has no intention or desire of canceling any student loans. So, folks, sorry that we have to live through this, but that is just what it is. Lending systems fail from time to time. We saw the subprime home mortgage crisis of last decade. We saw the S&L crisis of, I think, 1980, the mid-80s or something like that. Lending systems do fail, and the student loan system was, quite frankly, designed to fail. And now, lo and behold, it's failing. You know, you cannot take bankruptcy protections away from a lending instrument and statutes of limitations and not get precisely what we have seen, which is massive hyperinflation, ruinous, predatory lending. You just can't do that. And so this really comes as no surprise to anybody who knows anything about the student loan program, certainly the federal loan program. So, folks, we started a petition on change.org, change.org/cancel student loans. That is, at this point, an inevitability. You know, the default rate for subprime home mortgages was 18%. The default rate for everybody walking around with student loans right now, it's probably 80%. And all that stuff, all the stuff that I've said up till this point, that is pre-pandemic analysis. So if it was failed before the pandemic, it is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak. So tonight, and by the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them out. I'm happy to respond. Tonight I want to talk to you about what our critics are saying. And believe me, we have touched a major nerve. You know, this petition we started in March started the whole conversation about canceling student loans by executive order. And so we're thrilled that people like Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer are now calling publicly for that. But predictably, our opposition, that is the student loan swamp, they are freaking out. I mean, we really touched a nerve. We're getting up close to 1 million signatures on our petition. Everybody in the zeitgeist is talking about student loan cancellation. We are seeing knee-jerk conservatives throughout the media, and even some non-conservatives like the Brookings Institution weigh in against loan cancellation. But guys, I'm telling you, we've seen this before. We were expecting this. Don't even trip. We've got this. We've got them. We own the lending system. So, hey, Debbie Westmoreland is here. Good. It's about time we borrowers begin to fight back. I couldn't agree with you more, Debbie. You know, we've been fighting back this group right here for 15, 16 years now. And we are in the best position that we've ever been in. We hold the gold. That $1.6 trillion outstanding in federal student loan debt, that comes from us. We can choose to feed this beast and pay in and thus legitimize this unconstitutional, catastrophically failed lending system and ensure that it gets perpetuated on tens or hundreds of millions of innocent people to follow in our footsteps, or we can be like Debbie and fight back. We do not have to put up with this shit, people. And so let me just say, our opposition, we've known them, we know them, we've done battle with them for years. We have never lost an argument against them, not in the fight for bankruptcy, and not now in the fight for loan cancellation. They are trotting out all sorts of nonsense data to try and say that canceling student loans couldn't be done, is what they're saying lately. It's just legally, technically impossible to do by executive order. They're saying it wouldn't be fair to those people who have already paid their loans, et cetera, et cetera. And they're also saying that it wouldn't stimulate the economy. So, first of all, let's talk about the last thing first. Won't stimulate the economy? Really? Freeing the citizens of $1.6 trillion in what is just ridiculous debt in the first place won't stimulate the economy? I beg to differ. So the Sanders Institute did a study. They found that GDP would be increased by about $100 billion per year as a result of canceling student loans. And that is very dramatically low. That is a low estimate, because that study does not take into account the increased borrowing capacity that would be freed up as a result of canceling all student loans. So, of course it would stimulate the economy. And not only that, people would get their professional licenses back. They'd be able to practice in their fields. And as I said, they'd be able to borrow, I don't know, maybe not $1.5 trillion, but they would be able to borrow certainly, say, a third of that, which is $500 billion. So, of course, this would stimulate the economy. In fact, canceling these loans by executive order is by far and away the cheapest way to greatly stimulate the economy. Not to mention unshackling not only our young people, but across the age spectrum. We've got so many people who have Parent Plus loans right now, and they're just being devastated. We have senior citizens losing their Social Security payments because of student loans. So, yes, this would, of course, stimulate the economy, and it wouldn't cost the taxpayers one dime in additional money. So the taxpayers paid for these loans already many years ago. We don't need to pay twice. The President and the Secretary of Education have all the administrative authority that they need, as per the Higher Education Act of 1965, to waive, compromise, release the federal government's interest in these loans. Some people, like Mark Kantrowitz, shame on him, are claiming otherwise, but they have not a leg to stand on. Their argument is essentially that Congress needs to give permission to the president to cancel the loans. But folks, read the Higher Education Act. I don't have it chapter and verse in my head, but read the Higher Education Act, and I can point you to the line of code in question. Congress has already given the Secretary of Education, and by extension the President, all the power needed to waive, compromise, release the federal government's interest in student loans, assuming they do it in a constitutional way. So assuming that it isn't discriminatory or otherwise unconstitutional. And canceling all federal student loans is on its face not discriminatory. So people like Kantrowitz are pointing to the fact that Congress has passed laws in the past, like the law that created the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, like statutory guidance for the Offer and Compromise Program. Well, that's fine, and I'm glad that Congress did that, because Lord knows, up to this point, Congress kind of has to pass a law in order to compel the Department of Education to actually cancel loans. Because the Department of Education, up to this point, has had no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. And like the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, for example, 99% of the people in that program are getting disqualified out of it. So just because Congress has passed laws creating loan forgiveness directives to the Department of Education, that has absolutely nothing to do with the question of whether the Secretary or the President can actually cancel loans without any additional approval from Congress. They've already gotten approval for Congress. So Mark is wrong, and this story is making its rounds throughout the swamp media. But they are wrong, wrong, wrong. And if there was any challenge in court, they would lose. They just would. So, that's a very important point. Another criticism being lodged at us right now by the student loan swamp, the people making their money off this lending system, is that it wouldn't be fair. So first of all, let's talk about fair. Is it fair to remove constitutionally mandated bankruptcy protections to student loans? No, it's not. Is it fair to remove statutes of limitations uniquely from student loans? No. Student loans are the only type of loan in this country to be stripped of both bankruptcy protections and statutes of limitations. Is that fair? Is it fair that we are perpetuating this lending system, which now has a default rate of way over 65, 70%, probably closer to 80% as we speak? Is it fair to conquer and enslave the citizens in unpayable debt? And those, by the way, are John Adams' words, not mine. He said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword. The other is by debt. So is that fair? And to the people who already repaid their loans, this is no longer their problem. Whatever may have been the truth about this lending system 10, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago, the fact of the matter is that this is now a catastrophically failed lending system. It's going away. It's vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy, and there is not really even a question about fair or unfair. Should we have never freed the slaves because that would be unfair to the people that came before them and had to spend their life in bondage? Is it fair that we should administer the COVID vaccine when, other people who got sick before the vaccine was available didn't have access? Is it fair to them? Well, I don't know. But it's a stupid question in the first place. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that we just threw out $600 billion in the form of PPP loans to small businesses that don't need to be repaid and that all adds to the national debt? What about the small businesses that didn't get those loans and are now out of business? Is it fair to them? Is it fair that 43,000 millionaires and billionaires got on average a $1.6 million pandemic stimulus? Is that fair? Yeah, don't tell me about fucking fair. That's just ridiculous. Pardon my French. And to those people who already repaid their student loans in years or decades past, I say to them, and quite frankly, many if not most that I talk to, they don't care. They're fine with it. They're like, yeah, these student loans are just a beast. I'm glad to be done with mine. And everybody out there, I'm glad if you've repaid your loans, I'm thrilled. If I had a merit badge, I would pin it on you. You should be grateful that you had the financial wherewithal to repay your loans. The fact today is that 80% of all borrowers before the pandemic were never going to be able to repay their loans. The subprime home mortgage default rate was 18%. The default rate for student loans now, student loans, not home mortgage loans, as I said, it's probably 80%. That's more than 4 times higher than the default rate for subprime home mortgage loans. So at what point do you call it a failed lending system? Do we need to go to 100%? We're getting close, by the way. I suspect that as a result of this pandemic, that 80% that I've been throwing around is probably closer to 85 or 90% as we speak. Hey, Debbie also says, not just getting rejected for forgiveness. It's ridiculous how much worse off we are when they tack on so much extra interest. We end up way more in debt than in the beginning. And that's right, Debbie. 99% of everybody in public service loan forgiveness got kicked out of that program. And all of them were kicked to the curb and left owing far, far more than had they never tried in the first place. So, as ridiculous as it may sound, outrageous as it may sound, the federal government is actually making money off of these badly, poorly run forgiveness programs. Isn't that just insane and batshit crazy, pardon my French? Yes, it is. It's a failed lending system, folks. We do not have to take this shit. Beatrice Bird says, is it fair that no one's talking about the Biden Sally Mae connection? I don't know about fair, unfair. I'll be the first one to talk about Biden's Sally Mae connection. You know, Biden was instrumental in getting bankruptcy protections taken away from private loans in 2005. After that happened, Sally Mae relocated their corporate headquarters to Delaware. And Albert Lord and Joe Biden did a shoulder-to-shoulder press conference to announce this change on CNBC. I think it was around, I want to say it was like July 10th, 2010. You can Google it. You can see the press release for yourself. Joe Biden is dirty, guys. He's dirty. He's always been dirty. So, yeah, if we want to talk about fair, let's talk about fair. We've won this argument, folks. The only thing that we haven't yet done is brought the 44 million student loan borrowers in the country together so that we can act as a unified whole. Now, this group is where that is happening. There's like maybe one other group of any legitimacy that I can mention doing something similar, and that is the Debt Collective. But folks, I'm telling you, we're it. I mean, we're pretty much it. We've got nearly 1 million signatures on our petition, which is a great place to start. But there's no reason we can't and should not get at least half of those 44 million people onto our group, onto our petition, and all rowing in the same direction. So I think I'm going to leave that there tonight. Oh, we've got a couple more comments here. Debbie Westmoreland Baker says, right, seems like Biden was part of the problem. Yeah, Biden's a douchebag, guys. He just is. He was our worst favorite candidate. Worst favorite. No, he was not even our favorite candidate. He was our worst candidate. We were able to endorse Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, and Bernie Sanders. We could not endorse Joe Biden. Here's one last thing on Biden, folks, and this is very important and will become more important over the coming 50 or so days. Elizabeth Warren pledged that on day one as president, she would issue an executive order calling on the Department of Education to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. We got Elizabeth Warren to do that pledge, by the way, so good on us. So she made that pledge. She would do that on day one. Joe Biden said that he was adopting Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan. So this pledge for the executive order and bankruptcy is the most important part of Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan. So you heard it here first. Joe Biden is obligated to, on day one as president, make that very same order that Elizabeth Warren said that she was going to make. Joe Biden is obligated to return bankruptcy protections, certainly to federal student loans, on day one as president. If he does it, then he's a man of his word. If he doesn't do it, then he is not to be trusted. Mark my words on that. And, I could go on and on about Biden and Sally Mae. Rumor has it Biden plays golf on Albert Lord's luxury personal 18-hole golf course in Anne Arundel, Maryland. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, guys. Biden is dirty. Beatrice says, why don't we call him out on it? I mean, we should really do a huge social media push and call him out. We call him out all the time, Beatrice. And yeah, I would love to do that. That's why I'm saying it's so important that we get way more people on this group, which has only like 16,000 people in it, which is ridiculous. I understand people maybe don't want to talk about their student loan problems on Facebook. I get that. But nonetheless, there's no reason that we can't have 1 million or more people on this Facebook group. And there's absolutely no reason that we can't get 20 million or more people on our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. So just to everybody out there who's new to this group, you came to the right place. Tell everybody that you know about our petition, about this group. And the very last thing I'll say tonight, folks, is that we just wrote a very good article that makes the conservative case why student loans must be canceled. And I linked it here on this post somewhere. You can see the medium.com link to it. Read that article. It shuts down pretty much all of our opponents' criticisms, like stops them dead in their tracks. I want you to read that article, give it as many claps at the bottom of the article as you possibly can. I think you can do like up to 5 claps or something, whatever. But most importantly, send that article to a conservative news organization. Do it right now when you're thinking about it. Send it to Fox, send it to Rush Limbaugh, send it to Newsmax, send it to OAN, send it to, I don't know, Mike Cernovich or whatever. Any conservative blogger, news organization, talking head, whoever you think needs to see it, get it to them. It will help. Because make no mistake, folks, this is not a partisan issue. This is, in many cases, more a conservative issue than a liberal issue. And Fox News does itself no favors by siding against the borrowers, 55% of whom identify politically as being either independent or Republican. So it's about 43% Republican, about 12% independent, 55%. They're idiots. They are taking their marching orders from the student loan swamp, the big government, disgusting student loan scam swamp people. That's not conservative. So please do that, folks. The very last thing I'll say is if you can make a donation, please do it. We survive only and totally on very moderate funding from, by and large, distressed student loan borrowers. So we don't need much, but we can't do it on nothing. So go to the website, studentloanjustice.org/support, and that would be great. All right, folks. Well, that's my 22 minutes here. I appreciate all the comments. Join us on Facebook if you're watching this on YouTube, facebook.com/groups/SLJ group. But come on, guys, this is your battle. These are your loans. This is your fight. And if you don't fight, nothing will happen. So this is on you. You have no idea how important you are to this fight. Good luck. I'll be back tomorrow. It'll be back Tuesday. I'll be back pretty much every day. But good luck. Godspeed. And God bless everybody.